I ran a roll of film through this camera, which is about 70 years old, and I've been using it as a paperweight for about 5 years. Now, this was kind of an exciting project for me because I have been shooting film for about 5 years now. My grandma got me started on an Olympus OM1, and I have been shooting 35mm film ever since. I started doing black and white, and I started printing it myself. I started developing it and printing it myself about 2 years ago, so this is my second year of doing that. And it's been a fun process. It's really kind of lowered the cost of doing it for me, and I really enjoy the black and white photography workflow. So I said to myself, you know what would make a fun challenge? If I took the simplest, most bare bones camera that I can find, and I could shoot a roll of film through it. That'd be pretty cool, right? And you know what? It was a really cool idea. So I took that one day on a break in between classes, because I still go to school, and I shot a roll of 127 film, roll film if you will. And I got negatives back. Really pretty negatives. With one small exception. These negatives are not that pretty. Now, I'm holding them at a distance from you because you can't make out what's wrong with them. But let me show you a print from this roll of film, and let's see if you can figure out what went wrong here, right? Here. I don't know if you can see that. You see all those white specks everywhere? How it looks kind of like snow? It's not snow. It's not snow at all. I don't know why this happened. I don't know what caused it, but I do know that this is probably the weirdest problem that I've ever come across while shooting film. And film is an analog medium, so you have to expect weird problems from time to time. But this one was really unexpected. So let me show you in a close-up of what happened with this film. Now, if I can focus on it, that'd be great. But you might be able to see that in between the frames, there's this speckling in the film. Now, I don't know what caused that. I really don't. And I wish that I did, so I could give you a proper answer. But if the internet is to believe, specifically Reddit, so take it with a grain of salt, that is a result of this film reacting with the backing paper, which is, I don't know, I've never heard of that before, but that's really weird. But that is the cause of those white speckles on my prints. Well, print. I only made one. This was the first print I made. And it's the only print I made because I saw the white speckles, right? But I was all like, I wonder what that is, and then kind of ignored it. Now, the film that I used, I purchased from Freestyle Photo online, and it's called ReraPan 127 film. I'm actually really happy with the amount of detail that this was able to resolve. I don't know if you can see it, but just below my finger there on the building, it says Alumni Hall. Now, I was standing about 30 feet away from that, and the combination of this little tiny meniscus lens and that film was able to make those words perfectly legible. And frankly, this picture is great. The pictures that I got from this were great. If not for the fact that they're all ruined because of what happened with the film. So I set out to do this as a kind of fun experiment. You know, I wanted to do something different. Take the most challenging camera, but also the simplest camera that I have, and shoot a roll of film through it. Now, why do I say this was the most challenging camera that I have? And I'll tell you why. This camera doesn't have a focus assist. You just kind of got to guess on how far away you are and if it'll be in focus. Which, granted, I think it's from 6 feet to infinity, so you got a pretty good chance. It has one aperture and one shutter speed. That's it. It's like f11 and 130th of a, or maybe a 30th of a second. I don't quite remember. I looked it up a couple weeks ago, but I did not look it up in advance for this video. However, this camera is also probably the simplest camera that I could have used. It's not actually a twin lens reflex, although it does look like one. This camera is, well, it's basically a viewfinder camera, like the disposable cameras you can get from Walgreens. It's got a lens that you look through and a lens that you shoot through, and they are not the same lens. I mean, the lens that you look through does give you a close approximation of what your image will look like, although in my case it was in color and my actual image is not. But that's really all you get out of it. And so, if you were looking to get into film photography and you wanted to do something expensive, then this would be a great camera for you. You can get them at flea markets for $3. I mean, that's where I got mine. That's why it was paperweight for so long. However, there's a big caveat for that, and maybe it's just because of my experience, but this film, you have to pay roll film prices for development, which is more expensive than 35mm usually. And I've only shot one roll, but that's a pretty big quality control issue. I have shot probably 60 or 70 rolls of 35mm film since I started, and the only time that I have problems is whenever I screw up in development. Now, there was one time that I used expired chemicals that I had pre-diluted about 6 months in advance, and I had them on the shelf, and I said, oh, I'll use those, and so I did. That roll came out completely blank, but that wasn't the fault of the film. That was user error. And so there is, I don't know, there's a variability to analog mediums like this that you have to keep in mind. And for somebody who's just trying to get into film, I would personally recommend 35mm film. I just would. It's cheaper, it's easier. Well, okay. It's easier for somebody who understands how a camera works. But given that, it's cheaper and easier. And you don't, generally speaking, you don't get weird effects like speckling all over your film. I mean, I developed this in Rodinal, so this should be a really sharp image, and it is. But I also developed this in Rodinal, and this is a perfect image. I mean, it turned out fantastic. I developed a lot of stuff in Rodinal, and it's turned out great, except for this roll film. And so, I guess that's kind of a negative review, but that's my experience with it. And so, I would say that shooting an 80-year-old camera is no big deal. It was really easy. All I had to do was put it around my neck, look down through, open the viewfinder, look down through it, and then take the picture. It's as simple as a button press. That's it. So, if you don't think that you can do that, then it's probably not the camera for you. But if you can do that, then it's a great camera, and I highly recommend giving it a try. I do recommend that you also temper your expectations, though.